Welcome to the Oddity Shop, where the bizarre is always on sale.
Welcome in, you oddballs. I'm your curator, Kara, and this is your other curator, Zachary.
Hello. And this is the Oddity Shop, where we collect odd stories, creepy stories, weird stories, strange stories, and we open the doors and share them right back to you.
We try. Our best.
Our best is this.
What's new?
You beat me to it. What is new? Okay, well, not for us, but for everyone else. And before we forget to say anything.
Oh.
Because we're a couple weeks behind where you guys are right now listening to this.
Merry Christmas.
And happy holidays, because I told Kara we have to remember to say Merry Christmas to everyone, and she goes, you have to say happy holidays. And now we're flip-flopping.
Okay, what's new?
You know what we have to do, though?
No.
First of all, we need to hang out in person, and we need to come up with a solid list of all the events we're going to next year, because we started this year going to like a couple Paracon things and like having our wish list, but our wish list is so long we need to like concrete it out.
Well, we do, and also we've learned that going to the last two conventions that it just like pumps us up. It makes us so happy. The energy we give off of each other the entire time we're there is just...
And it's not even off of each other. It's just because we're finally surrounded by all the oddballs we talk to all the time. Or talk at without talking to. Like, we love hanging out with y'all.
What's that saying when it's like there's like three people to you? Like your secret self, your public self, your family self? You've never heard of that?
What you're talking about.
Okay, well, I think we have four because you have... Okay, so it's basically like you have one person, like when you're with yourself, like you have like that side, right? Where you have like things that nobody knows because it's just you. So you have yourself, you have your public self. So when you're at work, things like that. I'm probably butchering this. And then you have like, I think it's like yourself that like when you're with your family, friends, whatever, like the people that know you the best. But I feel like we have those plus the conventions.
Okay, so I am a little bit of a psychology nerd. And what you're describing is...
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. You're actually describing theories of personality without even realizing you're doing it.
Oh, okay. I'm smart.
So, your personality is you have the way you view yourself. Sorry, go on.
Does that mean what is it when there's the knowing? I just did this last week.
Claircognizant of personality. But, so you have your relationship with yourself. Then you have, like, so how you view yourself. Right. Then in every social situation you're in, your relationship is completely different based on how you view that person and how they view you. And your personality actually shifts. Like personality is not this concrete thing. Like you're not Kara because you're Kara. You're Kara in that moment acting in accordance with the relationships that you have and the environment that you're in.
Right.
But that's just the... Psych freaking.
We have a convention, Kara and Zach.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the relationship and the environment brings out different personality traits.
An oddball, whatever.
Okay. Well, your oddball personality is just weighted heavier than the other ones.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so moving on. Jesus, what were we even talking about? What was new with you? And then...
And then we started,
Oh, we have to make a list.
We have to make the list. Well, by the time everyone else is listening to this, I'm probably done with Christmas shopping because right now in our world, it's not even Thanksgiving and I am more than half done, which is unfucking heard of for me.
For you, for sure. That's awesome.
Usually right now, I'm just in the state of starting to think about and maybe Amazoning gifts or like, I'm actually pretty happy with what I've gotten people. Although I feel like I'm going to be really salty come like Cyber Monday when I realize I could have gotten everything cheaper, but whatever.
But remember, we had an episode about this, and that's just not really that great of deals.
That's why I said Cyber Monday and not Black Friday, where I don't have to trample people.
Right, you don't die. Okay, really quick. You had me dying, and I hope everybody else dies when you say, yeah, but when you go grocery shopping, you don't have to worry about dying. I replayed that over and over again, and it was the funniest thing to me.
So that's really funny because earlier today, Julia was texting me about how she was laughing at that episode, and it wasn't what I said. It was you. You're like, Well, I mean, it was good, I guess, but the bad thing is they didn't get to go shopping. And she's like, I was cackling.
Oh, when they got shot in the parking lot.
So anyways, now that we're well past Black Friday, hopefully all your experiences went well.
Okay, so you're good with you. So did we say what's new with your shopping's good. So today I went shopping. I took my nephew shopping.
Did you take your nephew or did you indoctrinate him? Because I love where this story is going and we need to start them young.
So I wanted to go to a crystal shop. My brother's coming to town and I really wanted to get him something like for protection. So I found this crystal shop and I was like, well, I got to take my nephew shopping today for his birthday. I want to take my nephew shopping. That sounded awful. For his birthday. Little shopping spree. And I'm like, I'm just going to see if he cares. We're going to go to this crystal shop first. I'm just going to get what I need and leave. But I'm like, he'll probably like it. He loved it. It was so cute. We stayed way longer than I thought. I thought we were going to be in and out. We were probably there, I would say 30 minutes. And he looked at everything and he was picking up all the bracelets and the things. And I kind of, before I got there, I was like, so you can, if there's like a reason that you want to get a crystal, we can ask like for what reason. I'm like, or if one just speaks to you, like, whatever. And he kept asking the lady like what each things mean. And it was just so freaking cute. And so he picked this. It was like almost like a shape of a little rubber duck. And it was like a yellow crystal. What the hell did I say it was?
Calcite.
No.
Calcite or citrine?
Yellow
yellow aventurine.
Thank you. And so she's like, oh, it's, really good for positivity and being happy and whatever. And he just like loved it. So I bought a bunch of stuff. He got that and he was just like excited. And we were walking out. He was like, that was such a cool place. Like, I loved it. Like I'm like, all right, cool. You're my crystal buddy now. So whenever I need to go to the crystal shop, I'm calling my 13-year-old nephew. But then later on in the day, he was telling me how much he loved Sam and Colby because I said something. He goes, you know who Sam and Colby is? I said, I'm so sorry. You know who Sam and Colby? I don't think you know that your aunt is obsessed with
10 too.
He just turned 13.
Oh my God.
I know. So then we started talking. I know. Then we started talking about, he asked me what my favorite piece of equipment was. And he said, I love REM pods. I said, I have a REM pod. And he freaked out. I'm like, what are you turning into? I absolutely love it. Holy fucking shit.
Okay, now you got to get him to listen to our podcast. And
well, he's a little bit too young, I think, for this.
Yeah.
He was intrigued and he did ask me about it, but I don't think, because we just, I don't know. We say some not 13-year-old appropriate things.
That's very true.
But I will tell you, it was really cute. When he had me look up what that crystal meant when we got home again, he wrote it down and he was reading it off of my app. And he goes, what's an empath, Aunt Kara? And I said, you are. And he's like, I am.
100%.
I'm like, yep. I said, and I explained it. He goes, I am. I said, me too. And I was like, this is the best fucking shit ever. I had the greatest day ever.
I love it.
Spent way too much money on little shit, but it's fine.
All right. Well,
that's that. Let's go.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
How much do we love cryptids?
Oh, what kind of question is that?
I mean, it's a very blank one. First of all, we all know where this episode is going. However,
we are borderline obsessed with cryptids.
Okay, if you had to pick ghosts or cryptids.
Wow. I might go with cryptids.
Okay, perfect. And I'm also picking cryptids. We already know. I'm going to let it loose. This episode is something I've been talking about for a long time. We're finally going to it. I know you know what it is. I see it in your face. But 12 seconds before we do that, I stumbled across a website in my research called 16%nation.com.
Okay.
And I know you love to buy stupid, cute shit. They have every freaking cryptid plushie you could ever imagine in its cutest form available.
I've looked.
I know you've looked.
So cute.
And me being me, I reached out to them. They have given us a coupon code.
Shut the fuck up.
Coupon code Oddity will give you free shipping off $60 or more if you want to check out their website. So if you are like me and Kara and you do love cryptids, check them out. Use coupon code Oddity. Get yourself a little savings. Also, for us, it's mid-November. For everyone else listening, it's mid-December. So I don't even mind this now. You might have a little gift coming from there. Anyways, that's all.
Oh my God.
Are you ready to get into our episode, though?
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about in this episode?
I think that you were talking about the thing that you used to feared more than anything in the world, and I was never allowed to talk about it because you were so afraid. And now it is your man crush or woman crush. It is your cryptid crush.
Is it my moth crush?
It's your moth crush.
Finally tackling the fucking Mothman. Okay, first of all, I wanted to get good at, not perfect, but better at podcasting before I even tried to dive.
It's too
into
important.
this. Right. Too important to fuck up. Also, it is kind of a Christmas story. Not a very happy one, but it is a Christmas story nonetheless. So we are getting into it. So before we start jumping into talk about the Mothman, are you ready for a geography and a history lesson?
No.
Okay.
Geography?
Geography.
No.
We got to kind of paint the scene. You got to build it all in your head. All right. So we're starting off in Appalachia.
Appalachia.
Appalachia is the region that includes all of the states that the Appalachian mountains, the mountain range. That's the word I'm looking for. The mountain range runs through. So this includes parts of Georgia, Kentucky, Maryland, Mississippi, North and South Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, the Virginias, and Tennessee.
Okay.
So the Appalachians are some of the oldest mountains, not only in the United States, but in the world, forming over 500 million years ago. They're surrounded with deep forests, tons of rivers. They're kind of beautiful. It's lush, but it's relatively like isolated and rural. So the towns and cities are there, spread far apart, just kind of like a quiet, slower pace of life.
Okay.
Not only that, they're also highly superstitious, creepy as fuck, and full of folklore, humanoid creature sightings, flesh pedestrians, your favorite, strange voices in the night, and things like the Flatwoods Monster and way more. I mean, the Appalachian area is just like...
It's so fascinating.
It's so fascinating. It's so odd. Whatever. Pretty much anyone who lives there will tell you some sort of creepy story, give you tips on how to protect yourself, such as keeping the blinds closed at night, never going into the woods if you hear a familiar voice calling you.
Well, duh.
And always keeping a broom above your door, because there are certain creatures who we don't name who will get distracted by counting the bristles instead of coming inside. So in Appalachia is West Virginia. In West Virginia is the city of Point Pleasant, where our boy is from. All right, little bit more geography for you. We're gonna kind of paint a picture of where it is. So like West Virginia on its eastern side has that curve to it. Point Pleasant sits where the state kind of starts to curve, and it borders Ohio. The geography line of the states of Ohio and West Virginia are like alongside the Ohio River, right? So the Ohio River makes the border. Then there's another little river. It's called the Kanawha River. All right. So Point Pleasant sits where, so it makes the Kanawha River comes into the Ohio. Oh my God. Ohio River at AT.
Okay.
And Point Pleasant sits right in the middle of that.
All right.
So Point Pleasant is a tiny, tiny town. Its population is less than 5,000. And it's really only survived over the years because it has had significant kind of like industry or military ties to it. So the National Guard Armory was there. The Naval Reserve Center is still located there, and it has been kind of like factories and production, right? So it's a tiny little place, but the biggest thing that kind of keeps it alive is the fact that it does connect West Virginia and Ohio with a bridge. So there's really no other way to cross into the states with the Ohio River being the border other than this bridge.
Okay.
Now, across the bridge is the city of Gallipolis. I've heard it pronounced a couple different ways, but
I think I've heard Galapagos?
Gallipolis.
Whatever,
Ohio.
it's fine. That thing.
Another really small town. It's got a population less than 4,000. So both these cities are like really quaint. They're quiet. They have that vibe of like everybody knowing everyone. So already kind of mentioned it, but then connecting them is a bridge called the Silver Bridge, which allows West Virginia and Ohio people to kind of cross over into each other easily without having to cross huge geographical distances to go into each state. All right.
Okay.
Are you kind of building the map in your head?
I'm trying really hard.
Perfect. Well, 5 miles north of Point Pleasant, we have the McClintock Wildlife Natural Area.
Okay.
It's 35 acres of a nature preserve. However, before it was a nature preserve, it was maybe a place that produced a shit ton of TNT.
I thought you were going to say like moonshine or something.
No. Much worse. So from 1942 to 1945, God, my words today, it was a munitions plant for World War II.
Okay.
Munitions, sometimes it means, making bullets, other times explosives like TNT. It was abandoned in 1945 and becomes a dumping ground for toxic waste. And then finally, a few years later, it does become the wildlife preserve. Its official name is the McClintock Wildlife Nature Preserve. We're not going to say that. Most of the locals just call it the TNT area.
Okay. The TNT area.
In the time that our story takes place, which is the mid-60s, was a area where the local youngsters sort of hang out. They've got, the abandoned power plant still there, some of like the empty buildings. But it's just kind of like a pretty remote place in a small town for kids to go and explore, hang out, probably make out. Let's be for real.
I'm sorry. This is just going to keep being in my head because you kept saying TNT. And I bought an AC/DC t-shirt today. And I just have to say that because it's going to be in my head. Continue on.
How do you not already own a AC/DC t-shirt? I feel like most people at this point in their lives own one.
Okay, well, I own one as of today.
Fair.
Enough.
Fair enough.
Okay, continue on.
So now that you have kind of like the mental map of West Virginia, Ohio border, you know where the TNT area is, we can finally get into the story. So we're going back to 1966, where the first few sightings of our cryptid boy are relatively low key. They don't create a whole lot of stir, but they are really important to note. November 1st, 1966, National Guardsmen who are at the Reserve Armory near the TNT area claim to see a large half-bird, half-man figure perched in a tree. They report it to their higher-ups, who kind of brush it off as a mistaken large bird.
So stupid.
So stupid. November 11th, 1966, 80 miles from Point Pleasant, 4 men are digging a grave, and they see what they claim to be was a flying man who flew over the top of the grave, came really close to them. They report it to a newspaper, but the story really doesn't go anywhere or do much. So in this first half of November 1966, a few others see some strangeness kind of going around. They make reports, but it's relatively small news, and nobody really takes anything seriously until a few days later. So that brings us to November 15th, 1966.
Okay.
So young couple Steve and Mary Mallett pile into their 1957 Chevy and start joyriding around with their friends Linda and Roger Scarberry. So the two young couples, they're kind of driving around. They want to head to a remote spot to hang out. And where did they go? That's right, Kara. The TNT
I didn't know.
area.
TNT.
So they're still in their car. They kind of drive up near the abandoned power plant, and they suddenly see 2 giant red glowing eyes reflecting in the car's headlights. Steve is the first to notice it. He points it out to the group. They all see the eyes, and then the strangers. And then the strange creature it was attached to.
Well, I guess he was a stranger.
He was a stranger to them. I don't know. Words are really difficult tonight. Anyways, they kind of describe it as being dark brown or black. It could stand anywhere from 7 to 10 feet tall, with a body like a man. However, it's covered in thick hair, has no actual neck, but just kind of a large, short head, and the only distinguishing features were 2 huge, glowing red eyes. As they start to make out the eyes, they notice the creature sort of moves towards them. Although, and this is my favorite part of the Mothman. Everyone who describes it running at them when he's on the ground, he's not a good runner. All right,
he's not very graceful.
He's good in the air. They kind of describe it as an awkward wobble.
Yeah.
Like it's not good on its feet.
But it's probably really cute.
Well, I imagine the wobble is cute, but this giant beast with fur and glowing red eyes.
Wobble, baby, wobble, baby.
Wobbling at you. makes you more
Okay.
comfortable.
I know I'm not allowed to talk a lot on this episode because it's lengthy. You already told me, but this just reminds me. Have you ever heard of when you see somebody out in the wild wearing heels and you can tell that they should not be wearing heels? It's called like a baby deer. Like
Yes.
you see a girl in heels. That's what I imagine.
I imagine something very similar. So Mothman in stilettos.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Mothman and drag.
The
I
mallets,
love
the
it.
Scarsberry, they've been in the car the whole time, right? But they just take off out of the TNT zone down Route 62. And that's when this thing stops wobbling. And instead it spreads its huge wings that had been folded against its back. Linda yells at Roger to hurry. And as they gain speed, the creature takes off into the air. But here's the weird thing. And the thing that always made me feel really strange about Mothman. Everybody seems to say the same thing. He spreads his wings, but he doesn't have to like flap them.
No.
As soon as the wings are spread, he like almost shoots straight up into the air, right? And he takes off in pursuit of their car.
I love him.
Now they're flying down the road. They hit speeds of at least and probably above 100 miles an hour. And this creature is just keeping right up with them. Points they're seeing it out the back window. They see the shadow of it kind of hovering above the car. It gets almost in front of them at points. Roger actually claims that it not only scratched his car, but was like repeatedly hitting it with its wings as they drove.
Listen, Roger, he's just trying to talk.
They start to head back towards Point Pleasant. As they get into town, the creature apparently kind of veers away instead of going like right into the middle of the city. Which, you know, if you're trying to get some peace and quiet, I don't blame him. The mallets and the Scarsberries, they decide to pull into a Dairy Queen.
What the fuck? Roger!
Brightly lit, okay? And they're like, they need to collect themselves. They're like, some of them are saying we should go to the police. Roger's like, no, we're going to get laughed off. So they decide to like kind of turn around out of the Dairy Queen, head back home because they didn't live like right downtown, okay?
Okay. They didn't even get ice cream?
No.
Okay.
Which you would need after that, right?
Yeah.
As they turn around, they noticed a dead dog in the road.
Oh, I do remember that.
And as they pass the dog, our boy jumps up from behind it. Wings come out. It takes off over their car and flies off again. At that point, they're done. Linda's like, we're going to the police. Okay. So
fucking Linda.
They go to the police station. They tell Deputy Millard that they saw a flying man with 10-foot wings that followed their car. Of course, 1966, 4 young teens saying a flying man chased them. The police did not believe them. They did still, however, I mean, it's Point Pleasant. I'm sure they don't have a lot to do. They go over to the TNT area and check it out. They didn't really see anything, but they got a lot of disturbance on their radio, which is pretty weird. However, though, the police do start to take it more seriously because after that night, the sightings start to come in like crazy. And the name Mothman is frickin' born. Okay? This is where he comes, at least how we know him today, comes into existence.
We just need to get more original with our names.
Okay, but Mothman, I feel like he was one of the first man
the OG.
named. Yeah, everything else is just a play on him or Bigfoot.
Yeah, Dog Man.
Right. Okay, so that was November 15th. Over the next 3 days, the police and local media start to get tons and tons of reports from all over the area about this large winged Mothman. Now, as the reports start to come out, a man named Newell Partridge. Newell. Newell. Newell.
I like that.
He claims a few days before to have seen the Mothman in his fields. And him and his dog went out and he caught it with his flashlight, right? And the dog starts acting strange. And mind you, I know you're going to hate this. It was an outside dog.
Yeah, I know this.
So the dog stays outside. Newell goes inside. He starts to watch TV. He's noticing a lot of weird feedback, strange buzzing noises. And his dog disappears after that night, which maybe, it's never been confirmed, but it might be the same dog that the Mallets and the Scarberries did see when they were driving.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
So I go outside every night with a flashlight before I let Delilah out. If I saw Mothman.
Done. Now, here's the thing is we've covered a lot of cryptids at this point.
I just think I'd be happy. I'm not going to let Delilah out, but I'd just be like,
oh yeah, Delilah would be a snack.
Thank you for gracing me with your presence.
Well,
Mothman.
Hold on.
Continue.
Hold on to that because he's kind of become a Midwest boy, but that's way later in the story. So mind you, he was really seen November 1st, right? We're only at November 18th. And of all the cryptids you and I have covered so far, there's like a handful of sightings, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is already like tons and tons of people, especially in this November 15th to 18th, just start reporting it like crazy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, even I think Bat Squatch had a lot of sightings, but it wasn't a condensed amount of time.
Right.
So,
but look at like the night crawlers. They had 3. You know, the dog man's having a couple a year. These are like, it's too much to ignore. So this tiny little town in West Virginia has to hold a police press conference.
Can you? I wish I could be there.
I know. And then the media starts running with the stories, right? Because I'm sure they don't have too much to report on, which kind of puts the townspeople into, I don't want to say a frenzy, but more of like they were excited, right? So every night they're piling into their cars, armed with shotguns, of course, and they're heading out to the TNT area to try to catch a sight of the monster or be the one who, you know, hunts it or brings it in or whatever. So November 18th, that's when the first press conference is held. That's also the same day that 2 firefighters stationed at the TNT area see a giant bird take off in the distance. They chase it. They can't find it. And these are the first 2 assholes come up with a theory that what they're seeing is not a monster at all, but a sandhill crane in the wildlife preserve, which is why to this day, I still hate sandhill cranes from the days when I was terrified of the Mothman. Hate them.
You're afraid.
Well, because when I used to be terrified, because mind you, I watched the movie Mothman Prophecies from a very young age where I didn't understand it. And then I almost got dumped out of my kayak when a sandhill crane flew over me. It's a whole long line of things. Anyway.
It is, but I've sent you pictures and have gotten verbally abused.
Because they also make noises like they're... I've been in a cabin where they were trying to break in to get to our snacks in the middle of the night, and they sound like pterodactyls or raptors. They're the devil's bird. Anyways, enough about the cranes. November 20th. A little bit of ways from the TNT area, there's a man named Howard Miller. He claims to have seen a beast with red eyes land on a bus shelter. And the same day, another couple sees it near the shores of the Ohio River. Still November 20th, Brenda Jones, she later in the day sees a large bird dart off on foot with a goofy sort of run into the woods behind her property. So this is one day and 3 different people during broad daylight have seen this thing, and they're probably all 30 or 40 miles away from each other.
I just love that he's goofy.
I know that he just like can't really walk. He also can't really fly because he just puts his wings out and goes straight up. Like,
I know, I love it.
It's just almost like the Mothman physics don't make sense in our
realm
world. Anyways, put a pin on that.
Oh.
Throughout the rest of November and into December, the reports just keep coming in to like the news media, to the police. And this is where we have a new friend enter the story of the Mothman. If you are relatively familiar with it, her name is Mary Hyre.
Okay.
So Mary Hyre works for the Athens Messenger, which is a local newspaper from Athens, West Virginia, but they have an office in Point Pleasant. She was actually the one to first run the story of the Mothman, pursuing the Mallets and the Scarberries. So I know this is crazy now. We're talking November 20th, and that happened November 15th, but lots have happened. Mary Hyre is like a big part of the community, right? Because she writes for the paper. Everyone sort of already knows everybody, but everyone knows who Mary Hyre is. She has this really like kind of cute recurring article called Where the Waters Mingle, where she talks about things happening in Gallipolis, Athens, Point Pleasant. And she's just like a very kind of nurturing, trusting individual. So what starts to happen is instead of people going to the police with their reports, they all start to come to Mary. Included in this is Mary's niece, Connie Carpenter, who on November 27th was driving home from church. She sees a man near a golf course, and as she gets close, he goes straight into the air, the wings come out, no flapping, swoops towards her car, and their eyes fixate on each other. So she is just staring into these bright red eyes midday. She has such intense feelings about this and burning in her eyes. Afterwards, she actually has double conjunctivitis or pink eye in both eyes.
Oh, God. And somebody that gets that quite often, that is the most horrible shit. So
she reports that to Mary. And she's not the last person to report having that same reaction by staring at him.
Wow, that's so interesting.
It's wild. It's almost like...
I don't think I've ever heard of that. That part of this. I don't think
so. We'll get into it a little bit more later, but that's not the only like physical thing that was happening from people who had close encounters. They had uneasiness, migraine headaches, so many like weird bodily reactions from something they were seeing. Anyway, remember, Connie is Mary's niece. She's writing all these reports in her little column, the Where the Waters Mingle, and she somehow catches the eye of a New York journalist and ufologist. You know who it is?
Yes.
It is Mr. John Keel, who ends up years later writing the Mothman prophecies. But John had been for a long time involved in studying and reporting on weird phenomena all across the United States. Really, really good journalist. People are starting to take him more seriously as he's writing about the high strange events of the 60s, right? But somehow he comes across Where the Waters Mingle and he decides to head out for Point Pleasant.
My leg is falling asleep. I'm dying right now. I just need everyone to know. Continue.
Do you need to stand up? We could take a break.
No.
Okay. So he comes to Point Pleasant. He meets with Mary and they start to work with They start to work with the locals to document all the weirdness that's going on.
There's a lot of weirdness going on right now.
There's a lot of weirdness. I'm having a hard time talking today. I think I'm so excited to finally be covering this story.
That's exactly
what
it is.
My mind is going faster than the words I wrote down. Anyways, so John and Mary, they get pretty close. They start to investigate all the goings on, and John feels like really strongly he can get to the bottom of the Mothman. And he says, whether he's mechanical, an angel, a UFO, cryptid, or whatever, I feel like I can help Point Pleasant and its residents. So they're going through, they're documenting it all, and it's really cool, right? Because John brings in his ufologist kind of frame of mind.
Okay.
Mary brings in the background of the people, right? So because it's a community where everyone knows everyone,
right?
She's able to like say like, oh yeah, this is a trustworthy person because of this, and this they do in the community.
Oh yeah, that's a good. Okay.
Right. So there, and he's really good at like documenting experiences. So between the two of them, they're getting like a really full picture of, it's not just like crazy Jim down the street has seen Mothman 20 times. It's upstanding members of this tiny community are coming out with crazy fucking stories.
Crazy Jim.
But you know what I mean, right?
No, like, I get it.
Like it's kind of cool.
It gives a little bit of validity.
Right. So Mary's able to kind of provide that. And like I said earlier, people aren't only getting the pink eye, they're hearing weird noises through their electronics, they're getting headaches, they're having other health issues. And John is just noting all of this. December 7th, mind you, this is only 5 weeks into it now?
Which is still seemingly a long amount of time for a cryptid to just be collectively, continuously being seen.
Right. So John and Mary take the original four, right? The Mallets, the Scarberries. Mary gets her niece, Connie, and they all go down to the TNT area together.
Oh.
And they get out on foot. John and Mary are kind of outside looking around, right? And inside, I think it was the Mallets, and it was definitely Connie. And Connie starts to have a giant meltdown because she sees him in the power plant.
Like meltdown as in crying or screaming?
Yeah, so she sees him and it's almost like a PTSD reaction. Because remember the last time she was driving home from church and gets conjunctivitis when this thing swooped at her car. She sees the glowing red eyes again and just absolutely melts down.
But let's travel down to the TNT area and see what happens.
So John is still a little salty boy. He hasn't seen it yet, right? But they decide to leave.
Wait, so he didn't see it while they were there?
No.
Maybe Mothman only presents himself to certain individuals.
That was early December. That's the first week of December. And I think people had this idea, right, that as Christmas would come around, things would sort of die down, as people got focused on something else. But no, now pilots are saying they see him.
Yeah.
Hunters. I mean, God. Honestly, that original November, December 1966, I could spend 3 hours going through all of the firsthand sightings. People were either chased by him, had the ill health effects, but nobody knew the reason why Mothman was hanging out the TNT area specifically.
Or why was he even there at all?
Right. He never really attacked anyone or seemed to do anything. Maybe that one dog, but I mean, your boy's got to eat, right?
Yeah, but we don't know for sure he did it. He could have just been checking on the dog.
That is true. I think a lot of media, a lot of the documentary is the movie kind of pull on like the fact that the one guy's dog goes missing and then they see it later, whatever. Yeah. But, the sightings, they continued, though, through 67, even past Christmas, through 66 Christmas, right, into 67. And as winter turned into spring and then summer, there seems to be like a bit of a lull in the sightings of Mothman. John and Mary are still having some pretty odd experiences, for sure. But, it's not as prevalent as it was. Now it's more like your typical like dogman sightings here and there, blah, blah, blah. All right.
Okay.
John goes back to New York. Him and Mary keep in touch. They're still trying to figure out exactly what the Mothman is. Then November comes around again, 1967. So 1 year and 1 day.
So crazy.
Hunters encounter the Mothman in the wildlife area, and they make a report of it. So like they had a really, really close call with this thing. November 18th, a year from when those stories started running originally. And when Mary made her first article, right, all of a sudden reports are coming in like crazy. So it's almost on this like cycle around November, December.
What does it mean?
Well, we'll get into what it means. November 19th, Mary calls up John Keel and tells him of an odd dream she has. She's quoted saying, "I had a terrible nightmare, John. There were a lot of people drowning in the river and Christmas packages were floating everywhere in the water. I feel like something awful is going to happen." It turns out that Mary is not the only one having these dreams. And around Thanksgiving of 1967, a lot of people in that area are having dreams and nightmares about a coming disaster.
So sad.
One other, Virginia Thomas, kept having a recurring dream about people dying in the water of the nearby Ohio River.
Can you imagine waking up?
And just like having it over and over. Ugh. By December, I mean, it's obvious at this point that there's kind of a pattern that's forming around November, December events and seeing Mothman, right? And more people are seeing it. Linda Scarberry starts having more sightings. She, in fact, over the course of 1966 to 67, claims that she sees him 18 different times. One of the last times she did was at the end of November 67. They stared at each other through the window. So he was out in her field. She was standing inside, and she almost gets like not a telepathic message, but feelings of just complete and utter sadness from this creature.
It's like he's trying to alert her or like get her attention. Like 18 times?
Well, I mean, he's obviously trying to get attention throughout the entire, he's swooping at people, he's chasing them, but he's never doing anything to actually interact.
Hurt or harm. Yeah, I just mean like if one individual saw him 18 times, come on, start thinking about what does this mean? Why me? What's going on here?
And I wonder if he was maybe drawn to her because she wasn't afraid to go to the police or to Mary and like start to get the story out, right? So now we get into December of 1967, which kind of starts the end of the Mothman story. Once again, just to reiterate, Point Pleasant and Gallipolis, however you say it, they're quiet little towns. It's December. It's been 13 months since the Mothman was first kind of spotted.
So wild.
Now, while they're quiet little towns, in December, they really come alive on the weekend. Lots of holiday celebrations, Christmas shopping, parties, etc. Then on December 15th, 1967, we hit the...
doomsday.
the tragic ending to our story. So it's a huge weekend for Christmas shopping. Townspeople are out, they're celebrating. It was also the second Friday of the month, which means it was payday, so there's more people out than usual.
Oh no, it was just vivacious.
And the traffic light that would control the traffic on the Silver Bridge connecting West Virginia to Ohio was out, which all had a compounding effect, meaning that the traffic on the bridge, the Silver Bridge, was backed up with bumper-to-bumper traffic full of people completing their shopping, making their way home from work or holiday parties, and just in general being with their families. Around 5 p.m., tragedy strikes the tiny towns. Those in the bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Silver Bridge start to hear groaning from the structure and then a shaking. And within moments, a cable snaps.
Oh, I hate this shit.
And with a loud sound of twisting metal, the entire bridge, along with 31 vehicles, plummets into the freezing waters of the Ohio River. Over the next few days, rescue efforts get underway, and they pull out as much of the wreckage of the bridge and of the vehicles as they can. In total, 9 people had been injured, and 46 people had either been pulled lifeless out of the water or their bodies were just never recovered.
Every time I drive over the Mackinac Bridge, I think of this. This is what I think of. Every time.
It's so hard to think of, and then you have to take into account, right? 46 people in a town of 5,000. That's somebody's brothers, sisters, classmates, coworkers. Like, everybody knew somebody connected to this tragedy.
Mm-hmm. Multiple people.
And I mean, like, the town, the spirits were just crushed, right? Like, everyone was affected. Everyone was sad. Everyone was deeply, deeply affected by this. And whether it was because of the distraction or because something had come to a head, right? The Mothman was really seen in West Virginia after this. So while most kind of think they got distracted by the tragedy, there are a large group of believers who think that the Mothman was a omen or a harbinger of doom or a bad thing coming. And it was trying to give the townspeople some warning of the bridge collapse. While it's kind of heavily contested, there are a couple people who thought they saw the Mothman flying around or perched on the bridge within hours of the tragedy.
Yeah.
John Keel is actually, like I said, he's back in New York when this happens. He actually hears about it on the news. He immediately reaches out to Mary. And remember, Mary's kind of like one of the center points of the town. Everyone comes to her. She has no idea how to console people, and he can tell that the entire tragedy is just so much to bear, right? Like, the town is never the same again afterwards.
No. How could you be?
You can't. You cannot come out on the other side of that and just be okay.
Mm-mm.
So with that being said, it has a really sad ending. I told you it's a Christmas tale. I told you it's not a happy Christmas tale. I want to break down for you a couple of the theories that people think the Mothman might be, because, that's my favorite thing.
Ooh. Okay.
First one, it's actually kind of a 2-for-1. Birds, right? Some say sandhill crane.
Oh, God.
Which are really large birds and have a huge wingspan, but they don't stand anywhere near as tall, and they're not covered in dark fur.
No. They don't look like men.
The other thing is a pterodactyl that somehow survived in the West Virginian caves.
I love pterodactyls.
John Keel kind of puts out the other theory at first. One of your favorites, the tulpa, a thought form that has been manifested, and now everyone is kind of seeing it. Yeah.
And so does he just think that maybe it was like a large sandhill crane at first, and then it was kind of a tulpa type?
Not quite.
Okay.
He does present that theory, right?
Okay.
Other locals, especially like the firemen, the National Guardsmen, right? This is just a mutated bird that drank all that toxic waste that was dumped to the TNT area.
Shut the fuck up.
So then we get to probably one of the most agreed upon theories, which is he's a cryptid.
Duh.
Or something way more. All right. I know you love when I do this. A few years after the entire experience and the devastation of the Silver Bridge collapsing, 1970, we have to, this is not really even part of the story, but we have to bring it up. Mary Hyre does pass away from an from an illness, not unknown, but she passes way too soon. However, John could not get over what the two of them had documented, and he writes the book, The Mothman Prophecies, which comes out in the mid-70s. For those of you who are new to the Mothman, this story is probably pretty cut and dry, right? Omen of bad news. It's a cryptid who's here to just give us a warning. The other people who know the story a little bit deeper are probably screaming at their phones right now saying, why did you leave out so much? Yeah. And that's because I ran out of damn time, because there is so much more. So bye. You're also probably saying, why is Kara been so quiet? Because I told her I have a lot to get through and you better shut your mouth through it.
He told me to shut the fuck up.
I did very nicely before we started. But you have to remember, Jana's UFOlogist. So the lull that I mentioned from the end of winter 66 to November 67.
What kind of lull was that?
There is a ton of other shit happening in West Virginia and the Appalachia that is fucking wild. Yeah. So with that,
what are you telling me?
That we have a part 2 coming next week, baby, and we're gonna start talking about everything else happening, including the creepiest being of all time, Indrid Cold.
I love Indrid Cold.
just gives me chills saying his
No,
name, the little
I love
grinning
him.
man.
No, I love him.
So anyways, I packed as much into the first episode as I could for you. I told the basic story of the Mothman, but I cannot wait to jump into the UFO flap, high strange, ultra-terrestrial shit that was really happening in this town. So, are you ready?
Here come the men in black.
I mean, literally, yes. Just not the ones you're expecting. No Will Smith here.
No hot ones.
Anyways, that's why I was having such a hard time talking. Lots to pack in less than an hour, but
Okay.
that is the first part of the Mothman. What do you think?
Fabulous job.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
very proud of you and happy that you finally did this.
I've been waiting until I was ready, but a year in, it's a Christmas story. It's Christmas time.
This is your love, your
My
soulmate cryptid. I'm so happy.
I mean,
and we're
literally,
giving
if you
him a
look
part
behind
two.
me right now, there's like 3
Mothman,
pieces of
Mothman,
art and a
Mothman.
stuffed Mothman and pins.
Mothman.
So,
So I'm very excited. Good job.
thank you.
I don't like that we all have to wait, but it is what it is.
I'm so sorry if you missed Kara's voice this week because there's going to be a hell of a lot more info next week. So
Yeah.
stay tuned.
Sorry.
We're wrapping up 2023 with our Cryptid boy.
People like your voice better, so it's fine.
Oh, they do not. Shut the fuck up.
I think they do.
No. All right. That's all we got for you.
Okay.
We're not even going to ask for stories or anything. Just hold out for next week and
Do what you want to do.
enjoy the fucking holidays. Hopefully you
Yeah.
get everything you want. Hopefully you gift everything you needed to gift.
Hopefully it's relaxing and peaceful. That's what I hope for everybody, because that's
There
what I
you
hope
go.
for myself. Relaxation.
Relaxing, peaceful, safe, and free from 10-foot tall winged creatures who are bringing you omens of bad things to come. No Mothmen for you. And to all, a good night.
But I want the Mothman.
I know.
I invite him to my Christmas.
What's that?
The
You don't
Grinch.
love the Mothman, Kara. You love the idea of the Mothman.
Shut the fuck up. Oh my God. Do all the things that we normally ask that I'm not going to go into right now. And, most importantly, creep it real, y'all balls.
Goodbye.
Bye.